also, did I not turn that? I turned that down.
I didn't see it happen, but if you said you did, I believe you.
See?
I believe you. Maybe not far enough. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
You two are just love and motion. I love it. I love seeing love.
Yeah, that's my
I love it.
We've been together 14 years. This is so weird. I know. I met him when I was 20.
Like you've grown up together.
Yeah. It's been very interesting. I mean, I was almost 21. I'm 21 on 21. Yeah. Okay. We're doing it. Let's go ahead and get started here. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the OK Keep It Sexy podcast. I'm your host, Erica Butler. This is my girl, Monique.
Yes, so happy to be here. We made it happen.
Yes, we made it happen. We did this. So we're going to give you some time to introduce yourself here. But first, let's talk about this song that you chose.
Can we just let it ride for a moment?
Let's just let it vibe.
I won't even disrespect Prince by attention to sing along.
I won't even try.
But this song in particular, it's interesting because I wasn't prepared to pick a song. But then my immediate go-to was Prince, like something that makes me feel inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And this song in particular, I knew the words to probably at a My mom was just figuring it out. Right? Like if you learn language, you pick songs, you learn language.
Right. Sure enough.
But just everything about it, the sound, the vibrations, the way the melody moves, the lyrics, it just makes me feel connected to myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like that. David's been warning me not to let the music play for too long or else they'll take down my episodes.
Oh, we don't want that.
I don't want Prince to come and get me.
Please.
So we're going to turn it off. But I'm glad it got to stay on while you were talking about it. Just for a little bit.
Thank you, David.
Yes, thank you, David, for the heads up there. So yes, please go ahead and take a second to introduce yourself. As y'all know, again, I'm Erica Butler, the host of the podcast and owner of Happy Sex Talk. So go for it, Mo.
So I am Monique McCrystal. I live here in Columbus, Ohio. I am a creative.
Mm-hmm.
I am a wildflower. I am a lover.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a giver. I'm a connector. My bio and Instagram is one of my favorite things. It says that I'm somewhere between earth and ether. And I think that is the best way that I can describe myself.
That is a great way to describe you. Yeah.
To me in a dream.
Oh, yeah. That's always the best.
Yeah. So I'm many, many different things. Many things.
Yeah.
But I'm me, you know?
Absolutely.
Unapologetically.
Yeah. We're both Pisces.
Yes, we are both Pisces.
Which is why, we love each other so much. Because Pisces, we love hard.
Yes, very hard.
When we love you, that's for sure. There are so many reasons why I wanted Mo on the podcast. But one of them is because she talks so much about like embodiment and being one with your body. And I think during a time like May is National Masturbation Month, hence I
didn't know that was a thing until you posted that.
Oh yes,
I didn't know that.
It's a thing.
Yes,
a whole month. Shout out to Goody Howard for the shirt. So yes, May is National Masturbation Month, and it's also National Meditation Month. And so I figured, how perfect is that to put those two together? And the first person that I think of anytime I think about calming or centering or meditation or like breathing is you, for sure. I was gonna have my portable diffuser going today just for you, but I couldn't find my essential oils in time.
Okay, we had tea before.
Yes, we did. Yes, I hid the essential oils because my kids was looking for them. My kids was finding them, and so I hid them, and now I hid them so well I don't remember where I put them. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So with the podcast, usually we do like this fire round of questions that are all related to sex. Now, you can always pass because we're a consent-friendly podcast, of course. You don't ever have to answer anything if you are uncomfortable, but I feel like I picked pretty decent ones. We'll see. So we're going to do some of that, and then we're just going to go into some of the topics that you and I mentioned talking about. So Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good time.
All right.
You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. I feel like I always start off with this question, but I just love it.
Okay.
Who is your favorite sexually liberated icon?
It would be a combination of Prince and Rihanna.
Yes. Okay. I totally get why, but can you give a little bit of explanation?
So, okay, I feel like Prince is just like a given.
Right.
But particularly for him in the 80s and 90s, you know, you didn't see a ton of people who were fully embodied in their sexuality and in their ownness.
Absolutely.
In the way that Prince was,
absolutely.
Unapologetically so. Yeah. And I feel like I get that same energy from Rihanna.
Yes.
I'm biased, obviously, because she's a Pisces, and I see that energy coming out, you know, in her as well.
Yes.
And I'm just always inspired by seeing how different humans like transition through relationships and ages and time, and still, you know, maintain the center of who they are.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the way she is rocking Fenty is like,
what is that? Like, what? I don't even know. Like, she's doing a whole thing.
I mean, it's amazing. Like, she never has to come back and do an album ever again. And I don't think she wants to. And I don't blame her. But, you know, people be trying to get her, like, so when are we going to get music again? And it's like, first off, you have an entire catalog already. Yeah. If you miss Rihanna, go back and listen to the amazing music she's already provided us. And respect the fact that she is at a point where she wants to move on in her career.
Yes.
She is allowed to do that.
Hello, she's allowed to say no.
She's allowed to say no. She's allowed to do whatever she wants.
Right.
And why would she come back when she's doing as well as she is with Fenty anyway? Right?
I think that's the thing about allowing creativity to be a gateway to pleasure.
Yeah, right.
If something that you are good at doesn't give you pleasure anymore in the same way, you don't have to do it.
You don't have to do exactly.
It doesn't matter if you're good at it or not.
Exactly. You could be great at it, but if it's not something that's causing you joy and pleasure, then why?
Hello.
Yeah, no. Absolutely. Amen to that. Okay. So, who was your first love in real life or fiction?
Okay, so my first love in fiction was Prince. Like
I keep trying to tell y'all. I don't know why.
Like I have a problem. I'll reveal the tattoo. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
That's hilarious.
My first love in real life. So I was like, I don't know. I mean, I guess what you consider to be love. What I thought was love,
of course,
right?
of course. Yes.
There was a boy when I was 12 that I really adored,
and
I was about to move to. I was about to come to Springfield, Ohio for the summer. So he spent the summers there with my family, and he gave me my first kiss. And I can remember still to this day being on the airplane, flying from Texas to Ohio, and feeling like the tingles in my belly from that kiss.
Yeah.
And we're friends. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but we were Facebook friends. And so it's just nice. Like, oh, look, you got a whole life.
You got a whole,
but like that little kiss just really stuck with me. And I thought that was going to be my person for forever. Yeah. Obviously, it was not, which is a good thing.
This is a good thing.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting that I can still remember that little spark because I'd never felt that before.
Yeah. I think you make a good point, right? It's like, you know, our first love, we always think we know what love is at such a young age, and we really don't, but it gives us those feelings, like, you know, that you never kind of forget, right? You always remember the way that you felt the first time that you were kissed by somebody that you like really wanted to be kissed by, right? It's a great feeling for sure. So what movie or TV show was the first like sex scene that you ever saw Black people in? I know. I like this question too.
Hard. It was probably something on HBO that I wasn't supposed to watch. But I also used to do the thing where I would watch like scrambled adult shows.
Right. Yeah, and try to catch it.
We didn't have cable. But like you could catch like a body part out here and there. So I can't remember specifically what it was, but I'm sure it was something in relationship to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, fair enough. I think a lot of us have that experience of watching scrambled, something that we didn't necessarily have included.
Nostalgic.
Very, very nostalgic. Okay, so have you ever had sex in a dangerous place? And I'm gonna let you define what dangerous means.
Dangerous.
Yeah, I'll let you do. I mean, whatever's dangerous to you.
Okay.
I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
You don't have to tell it. You don't have to tell us with who.
Yes is the answer to that question. Next.
Yes, and next. That's so funny. Okay, so you have a time machine, and what moment in your sexual journey are you going back to change, re-experience, or warn yourself about?
It would be age 18.
Okay.
18 to 19, somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah.
When I got into a very serious relationship with a person who had a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's the best way to put it.
Okay.
And so I would go back to tell myself, like, learn to say no.
Right.
And that your value and your worth is not tied up in your ability to be present with someone who's not present with you.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a lesson that a lot of people could learn and listen from right now in this moment as adults. Yeah.
He was just really trash.
Yeah.
But I got my whole groove back.
There you go.
From that relationship.
You sure did.
At the tender age of 20.
At the tender age of 20, 21. Right. Okay, so last question. What is your strongest sexual asset?
My strongest sexual asset. These are so good.
Oh, thank you.
I think I have a really beautiful way of making people feel safe.
True.
Thank you.
I can confirm that.
Thank you.
That is very true.
You know, speaking from personal experience, like when you feel safe in any relationship, but in particular when you're in a sexual relationship with someone, in an intimate relationship, when you feel safe, it just opens new pathways.
Of course.
Together, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So Ty and I recorded a podcast on Friday, which will be coming out at some point in May. And we talked about that too, like, how feeling safe and how like having trust in the person that you're with makes everything, so much different. Yeah. It does. It absolutely changes things. And I think that, you don't realize how important it is until you've not had it and then had it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Like, what is this?
It's like,
I get to feel comfortable and safe.
Right.
Like, and when I feel safe,
absolutely,
I can hang from the chandelier.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. I surely can. What is it? You want to play Helicopter Man? What's that? I think that's a Chris Rocker or something, right?
Yes.
A joke. Oh man, stand up is big in our house, so
I see.
I have constantly like one-liners in my head. I think that I'm funny, and I don't,
I think you're funny.
Oh well, I appreciate you. I tend to. This is maybe a Pisces thing, but I laugh at myself regardless.
Same, me too. Like I honestly think that I could be a comedian.
Yes.
I wanted to.
Yes.
I wanted to see people.
Yes.
Like that, but I don't want to look at people.
I don't want to. Yes. Right. No. Same. Which is why I've never done it. I completely agree. Yeah. No. For sure. Okay. So some of the things that I have here that I wanted to talk to you about is, things like practices of how to like clear out your mind. Because this is the one thing that I get asked about often, and things that I even have a struggle with sometimes, like how to clear out the noise of the world and just be in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that's so hard to do, especially in a time where like we're around people all the time. We really rarely have time by ourselves because we're all living in the same homes all the time, trying to stay safe, looking at each other all day long. And I just think that it's not, I mean, this would be a great thing to know for like when you're trying to be intimate and you need to clear the noise in your head as well. But I mean, just in general, just to be able to like think and have a moment to yourself. I think those things are so important. For your sanity and for the benefit of your relationships. And I just know that I've never really been able to do that.
It's hard.
It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. So let me back up a little bit and talk about how I got here and into this work.
Yes.
So professionally, and a huge part of my life is that I'm the co-founder of the Yoga Carriage at Replenish. And so I was a social worker for a very long time, and I was really unhappy and I was really unhealthy for a very long time. And I just got kind of used to my baseline being this space of not being present with myself, to the point that I didn't even realize what that meant, you know? And it took for me, going through something that was really challenging to really come back to myself and realize like, okay, girl, yeah, this isn't working. This isn't right. And just because this is the expectation, you don't have to do this.
Right.
And prior to that, I had my own practices, my own things I had been doing, but then I decided to do an entire career shift and change. And so that's how I arrived in this space. So I think the biggest thing to know is that it's a practice and it's something that you can come back to all the time.
Yes.
And I think there's this misconception, like people have an expectation of me even that because you practice this or you teach it, that means you probably see it too with your work. That means that you always get it right. And
absolutely. Yeah. I get that all the time.
And so the world is constantly changing. Like my practice was, really on point in December and beginning of January, and then there was an insurrection at the Capitol.
Yep.
And I'm like, I don't even know what's happening in the world anymore.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
So I had to start over and come back to myself. So being gentle and graceful with ourselves is the biggest thing. And then just realizing throughout our day, like pausing when you're actually doing activities, because we do things so mindlessly, right? Like scrolling on our phone, drinking something that's too hot, and we're moving so quickly we burn our mouth, and then we're irritated for the rest of the day because now the roof of your mouth is burned up. And so just little things like that, pausing, like when I'm scrolling, is this contributing anything to my right now? Typically the answer is no. Right. Pausing when I'm drinking, like am I just here? Am I here right now? Like am I tasting the flavors of my food right now? And I think if we can start there, then it can extend itself outward into our relationships with other people. But it always starts with self. And so there are lots of practices that I do on a daily basis. I'm a person that likes to be free and not have routine, but I thrive with routine. I need some semblance of structure in order to show up as my best self. So those mindful practices are part of my regular routine. Right. And it doesn't always have to look like sitting and meditating for 30 minutes or doing an hour-long yoga practice. Like, I'm a partner in a yoga studio. I don't practice yoga for an hour every day. I'm 30 minutes every day. It just really depends. But there can be ritual in anything that you do. So for me, that looks like waking up every morning and making my breakfast and making my husband's breakfast and drinking a cup of hot water with lemon before I start my day. And when I really get present in small things like that, seemingly small things, I learn how to be more present with my time. Like, 5 minutes of scrolling on Instagram is different than 5 minutes of just sitting outside looking at the sky. That's a very different experience than those 5 minutes. Definitely. So starting with like the small, finding the magic in the mundane, is a practice that I would say to start with.
No, definitely. I think one of the things that I, have kind of tried to get, we do breathing a lot in our house, right? Because we have kids with big emotions that are around all the time. And, when they have big emotions, I have big emotions.
Hello.
And I don't want to display big emotions as an initial way to react to things, because then they're going to learn that behavior from me. And so we do deep breathing, but mainly for them, but also for myself, and they see me practicing it when I can see myself getting, just like irritable, or if I'm just not having like the best day, right? Because that's just how it goes. Sometimes I'm not the best mom, right? Like in the moment. Sometimes I'm not the best anything.
That's life.
And so like I'll just close my eyes and I'll take a second and I'll deep breathe, and Emery will come over and touch my shoulder and be like, "Mommy, you okay?" What the reason that I know that it's working is because Dia is now at an age where she is having like tantrums and things, and Emery will come up to her and touch her shoulder and be like, "Just breathe, Dia, just breathe." You go in through the nose and out through the mouth. And like he's trying to teach her how to breathe, and she starts doing it with him. And I'm like, okay, so like I'm doing something good for them, because I can't say that I knew that growing up. Like when I had big emotions, I just had big emotions, And so it was really good for me to see that like that's transferring to them in a way, that Emery feels confident telling other people, or like showing other people how to do that. And I hope that kind of helps them. I know my little Scorpio baby. I mean, I feel really good about it. We're really intentional about, do you need to breathe? Are you upset? I just want him to know that like he can be in control of his body and his emotions. I think that's the biggest thing, is like, that's a great lesson to learn as a kid, because if you feel like you are the one that is in control of your body, then when it comes to like sexual situations that you may not want to be a part of, you know that you're in charge.
Exactly.
I mean, it all starts at such a young age, and our works are so connected in so many ways that people wouldn't normally make connections to, right?
I love that you teach your kids that, because so many of us as adults are reparenting ourselves, whether we define it as that or not.
Right,
and,
right,
our parents are humans. And
absolutely. They did what they could with what they had. They didn't get this education either.
Exactly. But just like the small things of being able to, the seemingly small things that are really big, like being able to have your own autonomy and understand that this is my body and I have choice.
Absolutely.
And this is not just something that, is a part of me that other people get to own.
Yeah.
And learning that from such a young age.
Yeah.
Is so powerful.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. I think that some of the things that I've come across in my years as a sex educator is, this belief that like releasing shame is a freeing practice. Right. And so I definitely want to talk to you about that a little bit, because there's so much shame exists around sexuality, especially for women in this society. And so the ability to kind of release that hold that shame and fear and, our own judgment has on ourselves and our bodies and our spirits, it's such a freeing practice. Right. I mean, do you help people kind of get through that releasing shame part? Have you helped people with that before?
I have. And I don't know that I defined it necessarily just as
that,
but definitely so, because it shows up in our lives in so many different ways. I love to talk about menstrual cycles.
Yes.
And it was something that when I was younger was such a significant part of my life. But I'm also like, why don't we talk about this?
Absolutely.
Why is this a secret?
Yeah.
This is something that my body's doing every month, and it's a secret, then there must be something bad about it, right?
Yeah.
And then you have young girls who are stuffing pads up their sleeves to try to go to the bathroom.
Yep.
Then
Oh,
hello. I got really passionate about this. Bracelet just flew off. And then you have to go to the bathroom and someone tells you no, that you can't go at the time that you need to go. Like just small things like that are ingrained into our culture from such a young age. And we grow up as adults who don't know, one, our body parts. There's a vulva. There's a vagina,
Those are two different things.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Or what they do or what they mean, let alone how to connect with them. So I'm a proponent of talking about the parts of our bodies that we don't show the world every single day as much, if not more, than the parts of our bodies that we do. Like I should be able to talk about my breasts in the same way that I talk about my ear.
Yep.
And that starts to demystify some of it. Because what I don't want is another generation of young folks coming up. Finding out, especially with as much as they have access to now. Like, I don't want you learning about pleasure and sex from watching Pornhub.
Yes.
Like,
please.
Please.
If you learn nothing else.
Yes. So this idea of undoing shame is something that I have been engaged in personally for years, because I realized how it was showing up in my marriage, showing up with people that I love, and the things that I was limiting myself with, because of this guilt and this shame that was associated with it for no big reason, just because that's the way that we've been ingrained, since a young age. And so just what you said about unlocking the source of that shame. And starting to actually name the parts of your body.
As for adults, sure.
Starting to name the parts of your body. Starting to touch your body. Starting to speak words of affirmation over your body. That's one of my favorite practices. Rituals.
Me too.
Like I get out the shower and just rub shea butter or coconut oil on my skin, and it's like, I love you shoulders. I love you breasts. I love you hips. Thank you for holding me. Thank you for supporting me. On the days that I'm like, this isn't it today, not feeling myself today. It's still, I love you feet, because you've held me and you've supported me and carried me throughout this day.
I mean, I think that's, the one thing is like, I've had body image issues my whole life, right? And I'm at the biggest that I've been my entire life right now, post 2 babies, 2 C-sections, like just figuring it out, right? 2 under 5, pandemic. And so, but David and I have had these conversations about how, like, this body is what got me through 365 plus days of a COVID-free life.
Hello.
And got me through an entire pandemic. Yes. And so if there is nothing else to be thankful for this body, it is like literally for giving me life for this long, and for for keeping me healthy, for keeping me safe, and so I've tried to, on the days where like I'm having a really bad, I call them bad body days. When I'm having a bad body day, I try to kind of stay present in that feeling, because it's really easy for me to like negative self-talk, because I've struggled with it my whole life. And, it's in those moments, like, and before the pandemic, it was like you carried 2 whole humans, like you birthed 2 whole humans, and you survived 2 major surgeries, and like, all these sorts of things. And so there are moments where, like, I'm trying to remind myself, like, my connection with my body is in fact rooted in love and trust and awareness, and, like, just being thankful in general. Yeah. And so I try to keep those things. And I also don't want my body image issues to come off onto my kids. I don't want them hearing me talking about my body in a negative way. I don't want them seeing me judging my body. I just don't want those moments for them. And so normally, it's like when I'm in private that those things are coming up for me. But, it's just things that I'm trying to be more mindful of, because now I've got little eyes who watch everything that I do. Yeah. So
I think it's interesting how the things that are good for us, we're taught that they're scarce.
Yeah.
Right? Like the world teaches us that self-love is scarce.
Yes.
That love is
absolutely.
scarce. That pleasure is scarce. But the things that aren't good for us are available in abundance. Right? And so we get to love ourselves and find these ways to create pleasure and create care for our bodies, when it's like, okay, I don't like how I look right now. Yeah. And that's honest. Yeah. I may not like how I look right now, but I can still acknowledge that, right? Yeah. And also hold these feelings of gratitude and of thankfulness for what my body is doing for me. It's not about how my body looks, but what it's doing for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's a big belief for me personally, and therefore of Happy Sex Talk, that Black and brown bodies are designed for pleasure. Absolutely. Right? And like one of the things that we kind of like, that our body desires, is for that sense of freedom and that sense of joy and the need for pleasure, and whatever that may be, right? So like you were saying earlier, just even being present enough to like really taste the food that you're eating. So when I was in the feminist night school with Zora's house with Treva this last month, and we were talking about pleasure, and she was saying, like, even like this morning I had a really good orange, and like just being in the moment of like realizing that pleasure not only exists sexually, but can also just exist throughout your day, like with the experiences that you have. And I think once we realize that pleasure has has like this huge umbrella that things fall under, like it's kind of a whole different experience, right? Because so often when we talk about pleasure, we're talking about things like masturbation, and we're talking about orgasms, and we're talking about all those things, which, don't get me wrong,
those are important.
Those are very important. I am a proponent for all things.
Absolutely.
But it's also important to understand that the simple pleasures in life are essential too.
Well, and I think for me anyway, in my life, that when I'm activated in pleasure in other areas of my life, the sex is no,
absolutely,
I'm more connected and present with myself and with my whole world, so that I'm showing up better for my partner, because I'm showing up better for myself first.
It's always about showing up for yourself. First and foremost. I mean, and if you don't have a partner, then sex with yourself feels better, right? Or if you do have a partner, you should still be having sex with yourself, because that's important too.
Solo
the
play
more
is very important.
the more you know about your body, the better it's going to be for you, to explain what that feels like for your partner too, and to kind of help them, because I've said it multiple times, and I will say it again, it's not your partner's responsibility to make you come.
I agree.
It is yours.
I agree.
They can't know your body better than you.
I agree.
Right? And so it's important to make sure that you spend that time with yourself to get to know what works.
Yeah.
And I'm here to help whoever needs to do that.
Yes.
Shout out to, Happy Sex Talk. If you need it, let us know.
That's so important.
Yeah.
And that goes back to this whole idea of shame, right?
Yes.
That we're not supposed to touch ourselves. That
Absolutely.
Insane.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to?
Yeah.
Like, what? I can't even get the words out.
Yeah.
Because it's that
How do I even form this
crazy,
sentence right now? Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I can remember being young and discovering, like, the shower head.
Right.
And that was, like, a thing. And I'm like, okay, well, now bath time has just been extended.
Yeah.
And I am grateful for that discovery, and just the ways that I show up for myself, because you're right.
Yep.
If I can't communicate that to anyone else, I can't communicate that to anyone else if I can't communicate it to myself.
Absolutely.
And so the communication pathways that exist between us and our physical body, that's where the relationship starts.
For sure. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
That should be on the t-shirt.
It should be.
Or a sticker or something. Oh, don't let me forget. I got a sticker for you before you go.
Stickers. Like, my husband loves stickers. I love collecting them.
I love collecting them.
So I may keep it for myself.
Yeah,
we'll
that's up to you. That's fine what you do with the sticker.
Just don't get mad if you didn't get a sticker when I got home.
I can give you 2 just in case.
Just in case.
Might
keep them both.
Yeah, right. So, a lot of things that I want to get back to, you mentioned that you love talking about the menstrual cycle a lot. So talk to me a little bit more about that.
So again, something that we learn from a very young age, many of us learn from a very young age, is something that it's private, it's a secret, it's shameful. And I can remember this distinct time in my life where my menstrual cycle started to be celebrated. I don't know who had a conversation with who about that. I don't know if it was like my grandma to my mom and aunt. I don't know who inserted, but thank goodness that they did. Yeah. And it stopped being this thing that I was hiding. Like that I was hiding, because to hide something for me, like, okay, this is a secret, this is shameful. And so when I started to unlock that, this is not just a part of my body, a part of my reproductive system, but this is something that can be sacred. This is something that is sacred. Like, my body is so wise that it knows to release every single month, every 28 to 30 days, whatever it looks like for you. And so for me now, like, the practice of the connection to my menstrual cycle is something that is sacred to me. I talk about it frequently, when I'm in that space where, I do a lot of work with menstrual cycles and the phases of the moon. And I think that when you really make that connection, you start to see how sacred you are as a human. And so the times during the month when I am bleeding, like, that is an incredibly sacred time for me. And it's a reminder to my physical body, like, it's time to slow down. This is a period that is time for you to relax, that is time for you to cater to your body. So there are lots of baths and herbs and teas and self-massage that happens during that time. And I talk about it really freely. And so it frees me and opens me, in different ways. And then even like seemingly simple things like starting to use menstrual cups and actually starting to see my menstrual blood. I'm like, oh, right. Yes. Yeah. Like, there's a connection here. Like, this is something that I can see, and I can feel my own cervix. Like, this is a doctor should not be able to do this better than me. This is a part of my body, and I want to feel connected to it. And feel like I have a relationship with it. And so I'm all for discussing menstrual cycles.
I really like that. Because I always be texting you like, something's going on. What's going on? What is in retrograde? What is the moon doing? Like, break it down to me, because something doesn't feel right, And that's just something that, like, I just know I can always reach out to you about, because if like everybody in my house is going crazy, I'm like, something is in retrograde. I'm gonna hit Mo up and see what's happening, see how long this is going on.
But I think when we connect with nature, we start to see ourselves in relationship with nature, and that we're one and the same, right? And that's the thing that I love so much about nature, that just that we get to be in relationship with it, because it does its thing whether we're paying attention or not.
Ooh, doesn't it? Yeah,
the moon
that's
is going to
so
cycle
real.
through its cycle every 28 to 31 days, whether we acknowledge like, oh, there's a crescent moon right now, or there's a full moon. Whether we look up or not, it's doing its thing. The seasons are going to change no matter what we notice or don't notice. And so I aspire to be in relationship with nature in that way, where I stay in my ritual, I stay in my ceremonies, no matter who's paying attention, who's not paying attention. Like, I am still whole and in connection with myself. Yeah. Yes.
That's crazy. Because I mean, it's it's just so interesting to hear you talk about these things, because it all makes sense. Like, yes, my period sits my ass down every month, and you know this. Like, I've texted you about this too. Like, and they're so intense post C-sections too. It's so different for me, and I've always had a really heavy and like really complicated and painful cycle. I mean, I got on birth control long before I even considered having sex, because it was helping me regulate my cramps so that I wouldn't miss school, like, and so it's just like, but now I just feel like, I mean, I am down for the count at least for the first 2 or 3 days of that cycle. And I think it's because my body is like, you need rest. Yes. And I'm just going to make it impossible for you to like sit down. Just sit down.
Just sit down.
Like be in this moment, like pay attention to what's happening, and just hearing you talk about it like that. It's like making things make sense. And I think I'm probably going to have a different like appreciation for it, as opposed to sitting there like worrying about the fact that like I'm not around as much for the kids, or that I'm not able to like do work as much, or I'm not able to be a part. Like, David took the kids to the park and I missed, the kids doing cute shit at the park. And it's like, but they go to the park multiple times a week. Exactly. Like, it's not that big.
Park's not limited.
The park is not like,
the park's not going to end that day because you're not there. It's not. Right. It's not. But it's,
so it's just one of those things. Like, I think, I think this month I might look at it a little bit differently and just look at it as the time that like my body needs to kind of reset itself. Absolutely. And I think that that's just something that like I just don't think about, because I'm oftentimes like just mad about the fact that I'm in so much pain.
And I want to touch on that a little bit, just about how so many folks have really painful menstrual cycles, really negative experiences, and get answers. We're not supposed to be just miserable, falling out. That's just it. But so many of us, which this goes back to the idea of shame and how it controls and puts narratives on our bodies that aren't ours. So many of us are used to suffering, during part of the month, and that shouldn't be the case, right? And so we get to investigate and explore and get answers of what's happening with this part of my body and what's happening with this process in my body, and how can I show up for myself differently so that maybe this becomes even pleasurable. If nothing else, less painful. Right. How do we slow down and start to tap and tune into our bodies and get those answers for ourselves? Take a nap.
Because I was telling David that so last night we didn't have the kids, and we were actually able to like sleep uninterrupted for like 7 hours, which is like heaven. Because Dia is, she's almost 2, but she like is getting out of her crib and like opening her door and coming across the hall and coming into our room at all hours of the night. Like the other night she was up at 11:30 asking me about a cookie. It's like, go to bed. Why are you up? Right? Anyway,
that cookie was on her mind.
That cookie was on her mind. She couldn't sleep. She had things to get off her chest, and that's fine. She did not get a cookie at 11:30. Auntie Mo, she did not get a cookie.
Whatever she needs a bag of cookies in your bedroom.
She did not get a cookie at 11:30 at night. She got water, and I still didn't get her down until 2:00 in the morning. So I say all this to say that I've been having these feelings of like that I'm like damn near narcoleptic lately, because I'm getting such a minimal amount of sleep. And even when I do get to sleep, I'm never really able to get into that full REM cycle where I'm in that really deep sleep. And so last night was like this like life-changing experience, because first off, I got time with my husband that wasn't interrupted by a child, which is fabulous. Shout out to that intimacy time. And then also, I got to sleep.
Sleep is big.
And I was like, oh, God, this is what it feels like. It just seems like, I feel like I'm never going to sleep again. However, Emery now, Emery's been sleeping through the night for like a year now. So I know that it's going to happen where both kids are sleeping through the night. It just seems like it's never ending right now when you're in the thick of it.
Especially during a pandemic.
You
don't have the regular people who will come over and take the kids for a couple hours.
And bless my parents. They've been so fabulous during this time frame. I mean, they're who kept the kids last night, right? And my kids love them. They're like best friend squad. Mm-hmm. Like they are, my daughter just sits here and she's like, Nana, Papa, like all day long. She wants to see them all the time. Emery is ecstatic every time they're around. So I'm very thankful, very blessed to have them here. And to know that, like, my kids love them so much that, like, they would probably prefer to be around them more than me and David. In all honesty. Nana, Papa are where it is at, okay?
Kids need pandemic breaks.
Yeah, they do need pandemic breaks. They be sick of looking at us too. I know so, but and keeping some of the conversations that I've had and keeping, like, the conversations about family and, like, ancestors and stuff. I've had a lot of conversations with people who are still carrying guilt and shame and their thoughts about sex and sexuality based on what their ancestors have told them, whether they're still here or not, right? And kind of like figuring out a way to balance that respect for the ancestors, but still knowing that, like, we can move forward. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And we don't have to hold on to the shame. We can break these generational curses and this generational trauma and, like, do things that are better for us because now we know better. Mm-hmm. Right? And it's really, and that's a lot for people to hear, and it's a lot for people to handle. Do you have any recommendations for, just kind of how to work through that? Because
it is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because you want to respect your people, right?
Absolutely.
And you want to respect those that have walked before you.
Absolutely.
And I love what you said when we first started about how Black and brown bodies are created for pleasure.
Yes, absolutely.
And there was pleasure that our ancestors could not access.
Yeah.
And so there are things that are available to us now that may look incredibly different. Mm-hmm. So I try to remind myself that it's not, a judgment of good or bad, but that when I'm in my space where I'm in my zone and I'm experiencing pleasure and I feel good, and I'm doing things that my great grandma would have tried to snatch me. My great grandmother's name was Mama Lou, and she used to sit on a rocking chair with a Maxwell House coffee can that had her spit in it. She chewed tobacco. She would spit in it. And she had a shotgun next to her and her tobacco on the other side and was like a badass.
Sounds like it.
That deal.
Sounds like it.
Now, Mama Lou, she had like 12 kids. She was doing something.
Well, and I think that's the other thing too that we have to admit is, like, y'all may have been shaming us about this stuff, but y'all was getting it in because y'all had like double digits worth of kids. So y'all knew what you was doing.
Like, you may have put that modesty cloth on your lap, but
like, let's be clear. Like, y'all was still, you were still experiencing pleasure. Yes. You were still having those moments. You weren't depriving your body of those moments, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I think that's
important too. I remind myself frequently, and what I would encourage people to do is that when you have those moments where you're like, oh, I feel bad, or I feel guilty, or I wouldn't, is this respectful of, or does this honor my ancestors, to remember that you're very active being and existing, let alone the audacity to be connected to your body and be able to say what you like and what you dislike and what you love for yourself. Just that honors your ancestors.
Absolutely.
And they may not have had the same experience, the same language, the same opportunities, the same freedom or safety to be able to do so. And so, sure, there may be some things that, like, great grandparents, great aunties, uncles would, like, frown at, but that your embodiment is an honor to them. And, it might look very different. It might look very, very different, but we don't really know what they were doing and what they weren't.
Well, absolutely, because they surely weren't talking about it, right? And if they did, it was in a very, at least in my experience, it was a very tight-lipped.
It was hidden.
Yeah,
it was hidden.
It was definitely hidden.
Having conversations about things and recreate the narratives surrounding sex, surrounding pleasure, surrounding intimacy that people maybe were experiencing but didn't feel the freedom to talk about.
Yes.
And so every generation that comes, I feel like we have a responsibility for freeing ourselves and living free so that we can free others. And so each time there's a generation that comes through, they get to engage in that practice and what it means for them.
Mm-hmm.
And what it meant for, you know, I keep going back to Mama Lou, what it meant for her may look very different than what it means for me now. But I think that she did the best that she could with what she had available to her for the time that it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to do things differently.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's really funny. So David and I are pretty intentional about making sure that the kids, like, you know, see us give each other kisses and hugs, and like that we like hold hands around them, and that we also let them know, like, mommy and daddy are gonna go eat dinner at the table while y'all are down here watching She-Ra or like whatever you're watching at the moment, right? Watching Cinderella. That's their jump right now. Their jump is Cinderella, Brandy and Whitney, of course.
Yes.
Is there any other? Is there any other version?
Cinderella.
Yeah, I mean, we were watching it on YouTube before it became a staple on Disney Plus.
I don't know what people are talking about.
It never. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I don't know her.
What other Cinderella are you talking about? I'm unsure. Who is Aurora?
Right.
Like, what is going on? And so, maybe that's Sleeping Beauty.
I don't know.
Is Aurora Sleeping Beauty? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's not relevant.
I don't know her either.
It doesn't matter. Not relevant. But yeah. So, you know, I think it's, you know, we're trying to do those things so that, you know, each generation gets a little more comfortable with that intimacy, with that romance, with like seeing and expressing love, right? Because I think that, you know, a lot of what keeps a relationship together, you know, David and I have been together for 14 years. I love that man more today than I did, you know, 14 years ago. We've been through a lot together in that 14 years. We've been married for a decade. And it's, you know, you learn so much about the other person. And I think part of that is, you know, like, I'm trying to be mindful of his love languages, and, you know, he's being mindful of mine. And we both like cherish that time that's just us, even if we're just sitting in the same room together without a child climbing on top of us. That's like really crucial to us. Right. And so I think, you know, we're trying to be intentional in setting those standards for them, because I want them to know that like love can look like a lot of different things, you know. And so I think that that's part of how, I don't know, I mean, I feel like in a way I'm honoring my ancestors in that way, because my ancestors, my grandparents, when I was around them, showed me what love looked like to them, and then my parents showed me a different way. And, you know, everybody who was a staple in my life, like, you know, they were still married. I didn't really have anybody who didn't stay together. And so I think that also has impacted my understanding of what like love looks like. But because of the work that I do, I'm very well aware that other relationship styles exist. And so I think that as my kids get older, I'm going to make sure that they understand that too, because I don't intend for David and I to not be together. And my parents are still together, so they see Nana and Papa together. David's parents are divorced. They see them as two entities, but they're still Nana and Gigi, and, you know, or like Papa and Gigi. And so I think it's good for them to see different relationship styles. They see how other things work, but to know that options exist. Yeah. You know, and I think that that's kind of like, in a way, we're honoring our ancestors in that, because we're being honest and we're being truthful to our kids about what, you know, what's available to them,
and giving them the freedom
and giving them giving them the freedom of who they want to be. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's I could talk about that could be a whole podcast episode.
It could be. Well, and I love it now. Really? There are more people who look like us that are hosting and having these conversations, because I think conversations surrounding sexuality and pleasure oftentimes get framed from a very white lens.
Yes, absolutely.
And so
they sure do.
For us to create these spaces that are sacred, that are safe for us to have conversation, it helps us get to see ourselves in different ways, right?
Absolutely.
To see yourself reflected. Like, I was talking to some girlfriends about this, and sharing with them that, like, about my sexuality and that I'm bisexual. And they were like, well, we never knew that in college. And I'm like, well, first of all, I didn't like you. So, like, there was a reason for you to know. But also, growing up, I didn't see images of bisexual black women. You know, I didn't. You got married and you married a man and you had kids. That was what the options were that were available. And when I knew, like, okay, well, that's not how I see myself.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But now, now, like, for me, if I were my 10-year-old self now, who knows, like, oh, okay, I like this girl, I can see images of women that look like me who have different options available to them, you know? So just creating these spaces for us, it is big work. I'm grateful that you're doing it.
Oh, thank you.
Because it is life affirming.
Yeah. I mean,
it's life affirming.
It's, you know, it's really, I think it's very important. We try to put as many different visuals in front of, you know, I'm talking about the kids a lot, but we put a lot of visuals in front of the kids. Like the books that we read are really diverse. You know, we have trans-Pacific books. We've got a lot of LGBT books in the house. And, you know, the kids are just like, they love these stories. I mean, you know, it's not like, it's just a story to them. And I think that's what I love is to them, it's seamless.
Yes.
It doesn't appear like a different story. It's just like, I want to read about these penguins, or I want to read about, you know, the boy who likes mermaids, and I want to read about, you know, that sort of thing. And so I think it's just been really great for us to see I think for me, it's good to see what it's like through their eyes, because we didn't have those experiences growing up. And it wasn't that we were taught to feel negatively about anybody else. It was just that it wasn't even an option.
Exactly. It just didn't exist.
It just, to us, it seems like it didn't exist.
But it did.
But it did, and it always has. Yes. They've been here just as long as we have been. LGBTQ people have been around for just as long.
Since the beginning.
Ain't nobody different. Right. Ain't nobody out here doing anything new.
Right. So when I think about living like in my own full embodiment, it's a way to honor those ancestors who had to live in secrecy and shame.
Yes.
Or who didn't have language to be able to show who they are. Or show up who they are. People who wasn't safe to do so. You know, or still not safe, don't feel safe to do so. So when I show up fully and completely as myself, I honor them too.
I know. I love that. That's beautiful. So this is gonna be a switch of
all right. I'm ready.
A little bit of a switch of topic here. Now I read somewhere, and I don't know if you're gonna know if this is true or not, but I read somewhere that lavender essential oil helps with erectile dysfunction.
I have no idea.
You have no idea?
I have no idea, but that is fascinating.
What do you know about? Do you know anything about lavender specifically?
I do. So it's an oil that's going to help with deep relaxation.
Okay.
So I guess I could see that potentially, but I don't know. I
have to investigate.
Yeah.
I'll have to investigate why people think that lavender is.
Curious.
Because now I want to know. Because then there's the thing about watermelon works like Viagra because it dilates and that, so it dilates your, what am I trying to say? Dilates the blood with blood guts.
The blood vessels.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
It's early.
It's early, y'all. We're recording this early. Because Mo is a morning person, and I like to think I'm a morning person. I mean, normally I'm asleep on a couch with a child at this point.
Oh my gosh, I was up early, like 7:15, and speaking of pleasure, like the way that I folded these scrambled eggs this morning, I was like, these eggs are sexy. Like,
eggs,
so good.
Eggs are a very sexy food. Like, really, I mean, not everybody has to agree with me, but I personally think that eggs are real, like, because there's so many different ways you can make them. It could be scrambled, it could be omelet.
I find a lot of pleasure in food.
I mean, well, of course, so do I.
But the lavender essential oil, I've not heard. I'm going to have to research it too.
I mean, let me know what you find, because I'm going to look too on my end, and then maybe we'll know something by the time I post by the time I post this episode. We might be able to put something in the comments. Let people know. Are there any other, like, sort of like aphrodisiac type of like practices or oils or like, anything that you know of that you can share with the listeners here?
Clary sage is really good.
Okay.
As an essential oil.
Okay.
Lavender, clary sage, just the name of it, right?
Yeah. What's it do?
So it's an oil that a lot of people will use as an aphrodisiac.
Okay.
It also can stimulate uterine contraction.
Okay.
So be mindful of that.
Okay.
Not something that I would use if I were pregnant.
Right.
Unless you were ready to have a baby.
Unless you're ready to have a baby.
So I would say that that's probably my favorite go-to. Okay. I like to put it on the bottom of my feet.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
The bottom of my feet and the back of my neck.
Okay.
Just like a drop. You always want to use a carrier oil as well to mix with. So I would definitely say that one. Any type of floral scents for me, like jasmine has been my jam. I was going to say right now, but honestly for the last 2 years. I I said earlier in my introduction that I'm a wildflower. I like to feel like a flower.
Yes.
And so jasmine is just a very sensual.
Yeah.
Sensual. Like just a couple of drops like on the shoulders,
okay.
right on the clavicle, or the small of your back.
Okay.
Like it's just, there's something about that that just creates deeper connection with your body, whether it's solo pleasure, with a partner, with more than one partner, whatever it is that it looks like for you.
Great. Yes. So clary sage
and jasmine are my go-tos.
Okay.
Yes, those are my go-tos. So I can put a couple of drops here and there. The bath water too.
Yes. Oh, that's a great idea.
Yes.
Baths, man. Those are.
You know, people are hit or miss with baths. I think like there's a population of people that hate baths, and I don't know them.
Those are not my people.
But taking a bath is an act of care for me. That helps to connect me to my own pleasure. Be it going into, solo pleasure or with, my husband, with a partner, whatever it is that looks like, but just actually sitting with myself, it's a practice of mindfulness, just sitting with my body. And where there's seemingly nothing to do, but there's everything to experience. And so I'll add flowers to my water, I'll add oils, a little bit of essential oil, and then like just sitting and actually like looking at the way that my toes move in the water. Allowing my body to be held, and that's a good space. A lot of us brace and hold our bodies, and it's part of our shame. It's part of things that we've experienced, if we've experienced any type of trauma before. And this is something that my body used to do. Like I would brace for impact, just ready, and so it showed up as like tight shoulders, tight hands, tight feet, tight hips. And so when I'm in water, when I'm in the bath, whatever body of water it is, it's a space for me to remind like myself to relax my shoulders back and down, to let myself be held, and just watch my hand just kind of be. I'm doing this thing with my hand right now that people can't see, but you see it. I do. This thing where like you just let your hand just be held by the water, let your body be held by something, and that reminds you like I'm safe in this body. I don't have to brace for anything. I don't have to carry my stress with attachments, right? And it's a space where I get to open and just release and allow. So for me, baths are really, really sacred. If you are not a person that loves baths, do whatever it is that works for you, for your body. But with showering, you can do the same thing. Where you let the water just run down your shoulders. Like just watch one arm and watch the water run down that arm, down your fingertips.
I do that often. I do that often because it's one of those things like, again, our lives are pretty busy with 2 under 5. And, when I get to take showers, I'm like, I'll be back in 30 minutes.
And that
minimum.
Hello. That's your secret time. Like your sacred time. Sacred time. Don't bother me. Whatever it is.
And I mean, I try to do it when I know that the kids are going to be distracted, because Emily will be the first one like, Mommy, are you cleaning up? Mommy, are you taking a bath? Are you washing? Like, you're like, dang, man, you just ruined my whole vibe. And it's because I like to do stuff. I like to just like get underneath the water and let the water touch my skin after I've done all the things that I need to do to get my ass clean.
You know, like what I mean? Letting the day, the energy of the day be washed away.
I mean, it's something that's always been really peaceful, for me, and I definitely appreciate like trying to take that time for myself. And I think that you just don't realize how important those things are as a reset for yourself.
And I think having children does require you to get really creative with it.
Oh, yeah.
For sure, I have more space in my day because we don't have little people in our house. But, a minute in the car. Like, it doesn't have to look like recreating the wheel. It doesn't have to be 3 hours. So I love that you use your shower time as that. And that you taught your kids to respect that.
We even give the kids time in the bath, like where we're not around. So they're still young enough where they're taking baths together. And so they like to play together. And they're like dumping water on each other and like, having fun and doing those things. We usually give them a few times, a little bit of time just to play in the water by themselves, because I want them to know that like I trust them to be able to take care of their bodies. And we're teaching Emery how to like use a washcloth. And so, and I, of course, because I was this milk goddess at the beginning, we still putting breast milk in their bath. 2 years later.
Was it
I was making soap and lotion. I stopped doing that because Dia's skin was reacting so much to stuff, but I was for a very long time.
Breast milk will
save this world. I mean, it will save this world.
Everything.
Really, it really is. I mean, I think Dia hasn't had like an eczema outbreak in a year. We've been putting milk in these baths we've been doing it her whole life, but consistently since quarantine because we've been here and my parents need their deep freezer back. Right. First off, they've been trying to thaw it for a year and they're like, are you sure you don't need any more milk, Erica? Like, that's can you hilarious. Please so we're down to like a shelf and a half. I've filled up that deep freezer twice. And so, they're like, please take this milk and get this out. Like, because she can't drink it at this point. It's 2 years, beyond the date. But it can definitely go in a bat. And so Emery's like, Daddy, do you have the milk? Like, they expect this. I don't know what they're going to do when the milk is gone. And there's no more, like, breast milk for their baths. I mean, the poor babies. But anyway, so I think, it's helped with everybody's skin. I mean, I think it's just how it goes. And it's just so crazy to... Anyway, it was important for me to give them some time to be, with themselves because I want them to experience that feeling too, right? Exactly. And because I'm a water sign, I'm like, of course you have to have a connection to water. Who doesn't? You have to. Who doesn't have a connection to water? That? Why wouldn't you want that?
I don't understand it. I don't know why. Yeah, right. I'm missing out.
I know. Yeah. Well, I think if you don't, if all minds are clear and you feel like we've talked about things, I feel like. I just want to reiterate, how important it is for us to feel connected to our bodies and however that has to happen for you, whether it's deep breathing, whether it's meditation, whether it's like mantra work, whether,
taking a job, whatever it is, not my ministry, but if it works for you.
Jogging is definitely not my ministry either.
Whatever works for you. And I think having the understanding that is something that the process of learning ourselves and undoing and healing is never ending. And if you reach this point where you feel like, all right, there's nothing else, then what's the point, right? Like we are constantly in this space of learning ourselves. Like, you know yourself really well. And then I just turned 40. My 40-year-old body has different needs than my 30-year-old body. Yeah. Like, I need oil changes on occasion. Don't have a day where I didn't hydrate well. Yeah. The joints are like, ma'am.
Right. Hey, the difference between 34 and 35, like, kicked my ass.
Mid-30s are tricky.
Oh, my goodness.
Because you won't realize it. And then it sneaks up on you, and it's like, oh, what is this?
It's like I woke up and instantly need Advil. Like, I woke up and instantly need ibuprofen. That has not been my journey the entire time.
But it's still half grace because there's still a whole pandemic happening. Like, maybe if, we were living in some sense of, like, normalcy. Whatever normal means anymore. It would look different. But, just know that we get to keep coming back to ourselves. And I think that part of this practice and this life, I'm not a person that gets excited about things, but that excites me. Yeah. That I get to continue learning and finding new ways to love myself. Like, that's beautiful when you slow down.
That is a very beautiful thing. Yeah, that is a very beautiful thing. And I think, that's one of those things where, like, people expect, again, because I've been doing this for so long, that, like, I know all the answers to everything. First off, I do not. It's impossible to know the answers to everything. And I also don't know myself as well as you think I would because I'm constantly changing.
Constantly. Like, pre-pandemic Monique was very different. Like,
absolutely.
Me 10 years ago, me 6 months ago.
Yes.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I look different. Yeah. I feel different. And so the way in which I get to continue exploring myself, that excites me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And hopefully it does for you too.
Yes, hopefully. We hope that y'all got some things from today. Thank you so much for tuning in as usual. And keep it sexy until next week, y'all. Yes. We're gonna go out on the beautiful ones again.
Yes, I'm about to lay on the floor. Look. Just lay on the floor.
Lay on the floor and just soak in all the sounds. Yes. Let's get this going. I want to turn my volume knob up. We were trying to figure this out. Yeah, right. Trying to figure it out earlier. Like, why can't I hear the music? We got it. There we go. Come on, friends. Just for a little bit. I'm trying to get him to snatch my song, which snatch my episode. Sex and love.